House to Home, presented by RE/MAX Diamond Realty.
What factors, or factors singular or plural, would actually encourage you watching this right now to actually do residential development? That's what we're asking. Liz, Gina, myself, Jason, we are tackling that very topic today on House to Home Hot Day, everybody. My two very, very besties from the world of real estate, we're actually contemplating and pondering that very topic. So Gina, I guess I'll pose the question to you before we hopefully try and develop, or at least contemplate any solutions. We are on the verge, as you've mentioned on the show, of a possible housing market crisis. So you're saying the residential development needs some sort of catalyst or motivation or incentive. I mean, are those even the right words?
Incentive, yeah, absolutely. And maybe not incentive, because I mean, Liz and I talk to developers all the time who are interested in doing residential development. Mm-hmm. But what's holding them back? What's preventing them from going down that path? What's in their way?
Okay, so it's not necessarily the ultimate payoff, but there are roadblocks currently obscuring, what just to get there. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, okay. And I know people hate to hear this, but it is a money-making venture, building residential homes.
Sure.
And I don't understand why saying that somebody will make money doing this, why that's supposed to be an evil thing nowadays. I don't get that. But
there's
anyway,
this thing called capitalism that kind of works.
Yeah, that's kind of how the United States of America was founded on that. But anyway, it's becoming an ugly thing when people say they want to make money, right? But I mean, that's why developers get into this. And obviously, when there's a shortage, people want to produce what is short. So what's preventing people from just getting out there and building? Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of issues.
Okay, Liz, you have the pulse of the development community about as well as anybody in our community. And, with your leadership role in the Guam Association of Realtors, better than anyone else, what their concerns are. So what topics tend to bubble up when developers say, this is why we're not operating at an optimum level?
Well, I think there's a number of factors. One, the cost keeps going up. And even Gina and I, when we meet with developers, we're telling them, don't build on the higher end, because our local market is, in the 400 range right now. And if they start to build on the higher end, who are we targeting? Gina and I, our objective is our local market. We want to make sure that our local market is able to afford to build. So one of the things I thought of is, of course, if the government were to assist in the permitting process and allow, especially during this critical period, to make some allowances to allow these permitting system to go through fairly quickly so that these people can build. And the other factor I thought about, there is a federal program out there where there's a subsidy for the utilities. So if the government of Guam came up with some program to subsidize a percentage of the infrastructure, for example, power, water, sewer, for certain developmental projects, I'm sure this will be an incentive for developers to go in and build. I know that there have been projects. I think at the time it was like a 20% or 25%. Gina may correct me if I'm wrong, but the federal government did subsidize. Of course, there were some requirements to that, and it was to help support the middle income families. And those homes were quickly sold. So if we hopefully came up with some program to that effect, to help subsidize part of the construction costs, then it would incentivize the developers, hey, let's do this. Many of them have tried. Federal programs are difficult to get into and to qualify to do that, but we do have some local experts who have done that. Carlos Camacho is one of them who did a project, but he's got the wherewithal to go through the federal paperwork, but our regular developers don't. So if the government of Guam came up with something to that effect, I think it would help incentivize these developers, and then it would help our local community to have inventory to buy.
Okay, and Gina, I know you were talking about like the fact that why do some people think about there is money to be made, and why did they think that's a bad thing? And I'm going to do something now that I've wanted to do my entire career. I'm going to quote possibly my favorite movie of all time. I know the three of us know what I'm talking about. It's Wall Street, 1987, and Michael Douglas says, "Greed is good." Not in the sense of the seven deadly sins, but I mean the chance to make money. I mean that in itself is a motivating factor, and it has proven results, right? So I mean that, you know, if you're looking for some sort of incentive or some sort of motivation or everything like that, you know, but as you said, there tend to be these little road bumps in the way that are getting in the way of that.
You know, developers want to build so they can make money. That's just plain and simple. I can understand that. I'm sure every person out there can understand that. Okay.
I work at KMM because I want to make money.
That's right. Me too. I come to work 6 days a week because I want to make money. Anyway, so developers there are developers here in our community right now who are willing and have the capital to build. And whether they make money or not, let's just get away from that. Okay. It doesn't matter. We need housing. So why aren't they building as much as considering that everyone in the private sector and the government, we've been promoting the idea that, hey, we need housing. Why aren't there more developers out there building? Liz just mentioned the cost. But you know what? That too, we can't control the cost, right? We cannot control the cost of labor because the more the demand, the higher that is going to go. We cannot control the cost of goods because there's so many factors that go into that. So as a community, what could we not really control, but help out in? How can the government help out? Well, I know personally a developer that after waiting 2 years for her subdivision plan to be approved, she finally called it quits and said, I can't do this anymore. Her capital investors that were, they were going to build 50 houses. Her capital investors finally said, it's been 2 years and you still don't have the subdivision plan approved. We're not even applying for building permits yet, for goodness sakes. We're just trying to get the government of Guam to say, go ahead and build 50 houses. So they pulled out. And I know there are many of us in the association, in the real estate community that have those stories to tell. So what can the government immediately do to help out with this situation? Perhaps streamline that. How difficult could it be for the government to say, listen, we need housing. If you're building anything resembling housing, whether it's barracks housing, apartment housing, single family homes, townhomes, condominiums, that is housing. Some human being will use that property. Let's put together a streamlined process. I'm not saying get rid of the laws. I'm saying make them more manageable. Give a timeline. Listen, you come in here and you want a single family home built. We're going to give you that permit in 30 or 45 days. We're going to do whatever it takes to give you that permit. You're coming in here and you want to build a 50-unit residential complex. Okay, we're going to give that permit to you in 60 or 90 days because obviously there might be more agencies, but we guarantee that we will give you that permit, that approval, no more than 90 days.
And ladies, am I reading this correctly? Yeah, you're also calling for this to be a permanent change to the protocol and the procedure. Like, right, Liz, this isn't just a tourniquet solution for the current recession. You're actually saying this would be a good thing going forward.
We're kind of like in what happens when you're in an emergency situation? When you're in an emergency situation, there are variances, waivers that are put in place. I think we're at the crossroad right now. Things are booming, and what's going to happen to our local community? The military is beefing up. A lot of monies are flowing in. Who is that going to benefit? And yes, we talk about greed. We talk about making money. Each of us have to work to support our families. But how about the community? They need a home. And our objective, I mean, people look at realtors that we're all about the money. No. Gina and I have been pounding our fists and speaking on your show about helping the community. And this is one important project that has to be looked at carefully. We're at a crossroads and things have to get done. And if it means the government has to step in to do something, that's what we're talking about. Let's make, like she put it, a streamline, waivers, variances, whatever it takes to make the housing opportunity boom again for our local community.
There you go. Well, unfortunately,
Jason,
okay, yeah, Gina, we're running out of time. So final word, please. Gina.
I'll make it quick.
Sure.
I just want to add that the people who actually do the work at each of these agencies, the people who actually do the work, they know what they're doing and they're so cooperative. I know for a fact because I go in there all the time, but it's the bureaucracy of the system. And some of them tell me they can't stand it either, but they're just there to do their work. So, you know, the government really needs to step up and complete. I know I know there was a permit czar appointed one, you know, maybe 2 years ago, but it can't be that difficult to figure this out.
That was actually the former governor of Guam, actually.
Yeah, I mean, at some point that's got to get completed and we have to implement it. The community is suffering.
And if this was a private sector, typically a company would identify a bottleneck and they'd say, okay, just like if a middleman can be eliminated or figure out a way to streamline this. So I guess, you know, until we meet next week, we'll just say, you know, like GovGuam, something to think about, food for thought and possibly balls in your court.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jason.
All right, ladies, thank you very much. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Bye.